She will be speaking on designing a rad blog brand experience without unicorns, mermaids, or glitter. I love that title. Kathryn Bondi is our first speaker. Service advertising agency. They focus on website development. She graduated from Marywood University with her BFA in graphic design, and she's now spending her time in the Marywood classroom, so she's back there as an adjunct instructor in the design department. Kathryn has also served on the board of directors for the American Advertising Federation of NEPA since 2011, is currently vice president of the board for 2016 and 2018. She also consults on the board of directors for NEPA Design Collective. Kathryn's been involved as a speaker in several other conference events, such as the 2014 TEDx Scranton, the 2016 TechBridge Entrepreneur Institute. In her spare time, because apparently she doesn't have enough to do, she is involved with performances at the Diva Theater, where she occasionally acts in a show or she designs sets. She creates light and branch sculptures, I think that's very cool, and jewelry under her brand Broken Twig. Kathryn's a lover of all things art and gladly supports being involved in community-driven events like today's event, NEPA BlogCon. So please, let's give a really warm welcome to Kathryn Bondi, our first speaker.
All right, well, my presentation is going to be shorter than an intro, just so you guys know. But thank you so much, Janine. So first order of business, why am I hating on the magic of unicorns, mermaids, and glitter, right? So you may have noticed a trend in the internet lately. We have a little bit of mermaid mania going on. People want to have actual mermaid tails and boudoir shoots. We have glitter fever. So everything is coated in glitter now for some reason. We have food, MacBooks, glitter tongues are a thing, I guess. The glitter beard thing really threw me off. And then, of course, we have unicorn saturation. Who hasn't seen, if you're familiar with the term squatty potty, that definitely became a thing, and everyone has kind of followed trend with unicorn food to unicorn hair. I'm not sure how unicorn toast is even supposed to be a healthy thing. And who could forget this? Unicorns are definitely responsible for that abomination. And then we also have unicorn tears on that trend. So we have people that are obsessed with, I guess, making unicorns cry. All kinds of things came out of that. So why is this a problem? So I just want to say that I'm not hating on them, but I think it's interesting that these are all part of trends. And a trend is obviously a current style, something that's temporary, and trends pass. People lose interest in trends. This kind of happens in the world of design. Trendy design definitely goes out of fashion fast, and this is something where when you're designing a blog and you're trying to create an experience around your content, you really don't want to be trendy. You want to, practice good design principles that are going to help your blog stand the test of time. You know what else was a trend? And I'm bringing this up as I think just a good case study. Anyone familiar with Crystal Pepsi? Show of hands, heard of that? So Crystal Pepsi was a trend, right? Back in 1993, and there was this whole trend in the early 90s, if you've studied advertising, that they decided that the words pure and clear would actually be associated with making a product seem more refreshing and good for you. Pepsi wanted to jump on this bandwagon. And during product analysis, before they released the product, they said, this flavor, it's close, but it's not 100% right. It's not quite Pepsi. But the CEO decided, you know what, we're going to release the product anyway. I just want to get in there. I want to get in on this trend as quickly as we can. And ultimately, it flopped, and within the year, it was pulled from the shelves. Lesson learned, don't be Crystal Pepsi. But also, stay true to your core offering. What they learned in that process is that because it wasn't actually their original product offering, it didn't really taste like Pepsi, the product flopped, and it didn't really work, even though they were fitting this trend. So, don't be Crystal Pepsi, be you. As a blogger, as a podcaster, as someone that has any sort of web content, a well-designed blog that is uniquely you is definitely going to stand the test of time. Don't use trends to push your content, but use good design to get people to your content easier. So what we're going to show you in this presentation, because I'm a blogger cat, I'm not a designer, I'm going to go over some concepts and maybe use a little bit of analogy here with the unicorns and mermaids to help you remember these concepts, to help you kind of decide how you're going to move forward. If you don't have a blog designed yet, if you're just kind of using a template and you want to put more design around it, or if you want to go through a whole rebranding process. I want to give you some of those tools that you can use that are out there to help you get through that process. So this is web design principles as told by unicorns, mermaids, and glitter. So when you think of unicorns, think of user interface. Much like the strong single horn of the unicorn, think of user interface strong elements that you're trying to use to get people to a particular action on your blog or website. So what's a strong call to action? What does a call to action mean? We use this a lot in web design, saying that this is like an action that we want to have people take by using very certain language, very direct language. So read more, listen now, follow me, sign up here. That's a call to action. If you don't have those scattered throughout your blog and have a very consistent use of them, you might have people that are kind of not sure where they need to go or what they need to read. Then use clear user interface elements. User interface, what does that mean? That's essentially anything, tap, click, scroll, anything that's on your website that's encouraging someone to interact with it and go somewhere on your website. So these are call to action buttons, menu icons, navigation buttons. Then we have titles and lead-in text that encourage your readers to engage with your blog. So this can be something really fun, actually, and I think a lot of people underuse this. Having any sort of really engaging and interactive statements to get people to really play around and explore and really read your content. So some examples of user interface unicorns. I used a Beautiful Messes blog as an example. I think they have some really great user interface, making sure that you have a very clean, simple navigation, that top line there. Then they have their social icons are very colorful, they stand out, but they also have a certain color scheme to them. They have a branding scheme. One of the things I really liked is that instead of home, they say start here. I thought that was really interesting in terms of user interface language. They're telling users, no, you've seen home a lot, you're probably going to tune it out if you see the word home on a menu. We want you to start here, because they know a lot of people are probably getting referred to their blog from other website sources. So if you bounce that article from Pinterest or some sort of listicle or something, they want you to start here. Here's the introduction to our brand. Here's the introduction to my content. And of course they have search bars and back to top, some really engaging content. So not just here's my email, here's the team, it's meet the team. Welcome to our shop, really trying to engage with their viewers and their readers and get them to explore more into their content. Then we have user experience. So when you think of mermaids, mermaids just flowing and swimming through the ocean, think of a fluid user experience as something that you want on your blog. Definitely less is more in that experience. Keep your page layout and navigation very simple. We saw that in the example with A Beautiful Mess. And white space is okay, guys. You don't have to fill every square inch of your website with content and images. Have some gaps. That actually helps the human mind process your content better. And then fewer clicks, the better, to help users get to the good stuff. That's also a big one. Burying things inside of, say, you have a lot of different categories maybe on your content that you write for. But if you bury a category inside of a category inside of a category, it's going to take people a while to get to your content, right? So you want to have a way that people can easily click from your homepage to get to what they want to read. And then a responsive website framework is really key to a great user experience. Is anyone familiar with the term responsive website a little bit? So this refers to any website that can be viewed on any device. It will respond to the device that you're viewing it on. So whether you're on tablet, on mobile, or if you're on a laptop or on a huge retina display, you're still going to have a very consistent experience with that website. I think NPR is actually a really great example of this. They kept their content very clean, very simple. Images are really a big part of their content, but they're giving you some breathing room here. It's not solid images. And they're even good with their advertising. A big part of these major blogs is advertising, but they're trying to keep it off to the side so you can really focus on the content. They even have, on their tablet version, they have a nice, what we like to call the hamburger menu. That little icon in the upper left-hand corner. It's really something that users have come to associate with, I know this is a menu. I know that if I click on this, I'm going to get more options. So we have that on the tablet version and on the mobile version. Love their mobile version. Super clean, super simple. When you're on a small device, you don't want to be just covered in icons and images up to, you just can't have that much distraction on a phone. We always flip really quickly through our phones, right? So they've really nailed that, I think, on their mobile version. Even on their internal articles, they have a lot of clean white space. They give you some room to digest everything, because there's some really hefty headlines here. And some imagery as well. So they kind of break that down first, give you some space, and then they move on to the heavy content below. And then finally, the glitter you could associate with cohesive branding. Sparkly, nice branding. So any imagery or logos or colors These are all things that would kind of be like the nice glitter on your website that really draw people in before they even start reading your content. So having some sort of similar style to your images or photography, and preferably they're your own photography. This is something that I've said time and time again to clients or to people in my classes. There's kind of this subconscious thing when you use stock photography that people kind of know it's stock. Like, oh yeah, if you just Google woman eating salad, like you've probably seen like that image 500 times. So, you know, if you have something that can relate to your experience as a blogger, something that you've taken yourself, I'm not a photographer, it's okay. You can do stuff on iPhone or Android. You know, any of the devices out there now have really great cameras, honestly, and there's a lot of photo editing apps that I'll talk about later that can help you make this more polished looking. So don't be afraid to put images up there that are your own, because people will relate to that better and engage more in your content that way. And then pick a limited color palette. So that's kind of a color branding thing that goes along with what we're going to see in a little bit, is play around with colors. Kind of have an association. So when people come onto your website, they're like, oh yeah, that's that green that I always see with their posts. Like there's going to be some sort of color association along with that imagery. And a logo is a great plus, but totally not necessary, especially in blog land. But if you do have a designer friend, you might want to ask them if possibly maybe you could do a trade agreement with them. Just throwing it out there. And then, so I want to show you some branding mood board examples. So mood boards are what we use in the industry to kind of get a feel for when we're starting a new brand, or when we want to get like, you know, what is the essence of this brand? So I think this is a really great exercise to try with your blog or a podcast. What is my essence? What am I trying to get out there in terms of my brand? So playing around with different fonts, different colors, and this doesn't have to be something you're doing in Photoshop. I mean, this could be like printing things out or finding things in a newspaper and just pasting them together on one page. It can be really actually fun. So these are some examples of blogs out there that did branding boards, and you can see they really kind of, when you see it all together as one piece, you feel like, wow, like that's a brand, I get it. Same here, like I love that papaya and lime one. It's so simple and clean. They have the whole like watercolor and imagery, and the types of imagery are really a big part of this. So what do these elements look like together on a successful blog? So I'm going to go through some examples of actual blogs that are out there and showing you kind of what it actually feels like when these elements are together. One that I really like is Help Scout. So I think this is like a customer service blog, but they really don't have, and I have here, I kind of gave like ratings on where I feel like they fall on the unicorn glitter mermaid scale. So this is basically, they're really heavy into the branding of their imagery. So if I saw a Help Scout article on another website, I'd probably be like, yeah, duh, I know that's a Help Scout article, that illustrated image with the really bright color, solid background. That's something that they've really worked on building up, and outside of their website, it's really easy to recognize. Other than that, their layout is very clean and simple. Like there's really not a lot of stuff going on. It's very blank, very white, very simple navigation tabs, super easy to get around. But I mean, even the way that they use their words, I think, is awesome too. Like this title of this is "Delivering Amazing Customer Service While Drinking Through a Fire Hose." No idea what that means, but with that combined with the actual illustration, I'm like, yeah, I'm there. I want to read it. Moving into more of a travel website category, this is the Poor Traveler. It's a pretty big one out there. I think they've done pretty well with the user interface elements, but in terms of user experience, I think there's a little bit of a disconnect there, but they're still doing pretty well. But the branding is really where their color palette is kind of there, but it's so spread out and their imagery is all over the place. Like it doesn't really feel like a cohesive thing. Like I almost feel like you could almost buy a template and put their name on it and that's their website. So branding is kind of important and where you want something to feel uniquely to your content. But in terms of user experience, I think in user interface, they really nailed it. They have, see all the destinations here is one of their call to actions. And their title of one of their articles, How to Travel the World, like getting those engaging words that make people want to click and figure out more about what they're selling here. And that's an interactive map there, which is actually pretty cool. Pinch of Yum. So this is a food blog, and oh my gosh, does it make me hungry. They definitely nailed it on the branding side of things, and especially if is there anyone here that's a food blogger? So yeah, images are a huge part of what you do, right? You really have to make people want to like, oh my gosh, how do I make that? I'm starving. So this person, I think, really nailed it, and she has a great color palette that she's going with too, that's neutral. She's using a color that you're not going to see too much in food, so I think it's not going to clash with anything that she posts. And she has a nice little introduction of who she is. I think that's a huge part in humanizing your blog, is saying, here's my content, but here's me. And I see a lot of the more successful blogs out there really giving the people the idea like, no, this isn't generated by a team of writers or a marketing team. This is me. This is what I think, what I'm putting out there. And I think that's kind of important to a brand, to explain to your readers who you are. But yeah, her user experience is great. User interface elements are very clear, all the little icons and read more here, great stuff. I want to show this as an example of pushing branding really far. So they got tons of glitter. They did a great job. It's very artsy, it's very out there. But in terms of user interface and user experience, it's a little confusing because they're just so out there that it's kind of hard to discern, like, where do I go? Where do I click? So even when I came on this website the first time, I was like, is this an article or is this a group of articles when I first come on? You know, I'm not entirely sure. So making sure that, you know, you're not pushing that envelope too far in one direction and you're not losing your users because they want to be able to browse your content, right? You want that mermaid. Barstool Sports, that's a popular one out there. So I have to say it's very popular, but I don't understand how people are using their blog. I think maybe they're more popular on the podcast side of things. But in terms of their blog, they're very minimal branding. And if I were to just take that top bar off, I don't even know whose blog this is. It really has no particular feel. There's no particular direction to it. The images are all over the place. Their call to actions are okay. They have watch now. But honestly, I think I'm more encouraged to upgrade now to NFL Sunday Ticket than I am to click on one of their articles because they have ads that are having better call to actions than their actual website. I also want to get a quote for Progressive. So just keep those things in mind that if you do have advertising on your page, you don't want to be competing with it and make sure that your call to actions are pretty clear. And finally, we come back to A Beautiful Mess. I just think overall they're a really great example of branding, usability, user experience, everything coming together and working together really well. So obviously when you have a style blog, you're going to have a lot of photos. That's just a big key component of it. But I think they did a really good job of making them consistent. Like when you see these photos together as a set on a grid, you're like, wow, this is all part of a brand. And even like they have a logo, but it's not super crazy. It's just really like someone wrote it with a Sharpie almost. So, you know, stuff like that you can kind of play around with. And it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I have to go find an agency and I have to like get branding done. I mean, if you want to, I'm here, but you don't have to go that intensely through the process. It really should be something that's fun. So, you think you're ready for a blog redesign possibly. So where do you start now that we've talked about everything out there and these 3 major design principles? Start with research. This is super important, and any phase with any client, I'll go through the same process. We call it the discovery phase, but really going through the research of, okay, well, what do you want out of this blog? What do you want your users to get out of this blog? So refer to the good examples out there, see what they're doing, what do you like, what do you don't like, why do you think that they're so successful? And if you're in a particular niche, which most of you probably are, dive into that niche and see what other people are doing. And then don't do it. You definitely want to stand out in your niche, and especially if you have a very specific realm that you're writing for, you want to make sure that you're unique in that realm, right? You're not doing what the other guys are doing. So decide, how am I going to make my branding different? How am I going to be better with my user interface? How am I going to be more easily browsable than these other guys out there? And a really big thing actually is having other people try going through your website. If it doesn't make sense to them, it's probably not making sense to a lot of other people. When you're so involved in your own content and just clicking through those things day in and day out, you're probably thinking, yeah, this probably makes a lot of sense to other people. I have it organized pretty well. It makes sense to me. But it may not make sense to other people. So we really get their feedback on, where are they getting stuck? What don't they like about it? Is there somewhere where they're not sure where to click? Outside user feedback is really important. So now that you've done the research, you're going to find a new unicorn, right? So really go through that process of your interface. Okay, what do I really want to guide people toward? What is the main action I want them to take? Do I have a product? Am I trying to get them to buy something? Or do I just want them to read? Am I trying to get them to read more articles? Am I trying to get them to follow me? Do I want them to get on social media and follow me there? So think of those actionable steps for your call to actions that you're really trying to guide people toward. And then, try some of those exciting new one-liners. I mean, yeah, if you have more of a literature blog, you do some really dark poetry, maybe it's not going to be that exciting, but if you're trying to guide people to exciting destinations you're doing or exciting recipes, get them excited about it, as passionate as you feel about it. Also switch out some of the button link text. Does anyone here actually look at analytics on their blog or have analytics on their blog? A little bit? That's a good way to see, is it working? So maybe if there's a call to action that you have on one page or on your home page, switch it out for a week. See if people are clicking on it more. If you find that they're clicking on it more, maybe that was the trick. If they're not, try something else. In the industry, we call that A/B testing. So then catch that mermaid, right? You want to make sure that you have a good user experience as you flow through your site, and that having other people test it, again, is going to help you with that. But it might be time to refresh your template too. Think about that. If you have a little extra cash, it's not a bad idea to buy one. There are really great ones out there, and these are people that make these for a living, so they are built to have a good user experience, so you don't really have to think about it. And obviously using your feedback from user testing. Honestly, your navigation is not something that's set in stone. If you find that there's something that makes more sense to move it out to a top navigation item or eliminate it altogether, that's okay. You can do that. Your users will adjust. And finally, spreading the glitter. So have a photo session, like I said. Go ahead and try it. It's scary, but just try it. Play with color palettes, and maybe a time for a rebrand. People reinvent themselves all the time. If you're going to relaunch your website, go ahead and relaunch your blog brand. And of course, creating your own mood board. So here are some glittering resources that I wanted to share with you. If anyone wants to talk to me more about these afterward, I'd totally be open to it, but I just want to review them real quick now. One of the ones that I love is Unsplash. Again, I totally recommend using your own photos, but if you're not or you can't, Unsplash is really great. It's just been proven that a lot more articles get clicks if they have an image associated with them versus not. So I would recommend just trying it and seeing how having a featured image like that really helps. But they're royalty free, and there's probably a lot of them that you'll recognize because they are royalty free, but it's a really great site. They have really great lifestyle imagery. Flat Icon is really good for UI elements, user interface, so anything like buttons and different little menu elements. They do require that you give credit to the author in your code, but they're really great for just, if you're not an artist, you're not going to be able to draw these things yourselves, you can download them from Flat Icon. It's really great. Canva and PicMonkey are both very similar in that they're like image layout software kind of, so if you're not a Photoshop person, that's okay. This is really easy, you can do it on your phone, and so if you're kind of more of a lifestyle blogger or something like that, you can kind of make compositions and layouts and add text on top. So super easy, super intuitive to use. I definitely recommend those. Visco, a lot of people might have heard of that one. It's kind of like a filter software for editing photos. So if you're familiar with Instagram and how you can edit photos on there, it's very similar, it's just outside of Instagram. And then Adobe Color, I really want to show you guys in a second. I have a screenshot for that, but that's for playing with color branding. And obviously free WordPress templates are always great, and designer friends. So this is Adobe Color, free website, and it's really fun to just like play around. There's a color wheel, we can pick different colors and see how they work with each other. And then there's kind of a community out there, like a database of colors that people have already kind of put together and done their own little branding projects. So you can kind of pick that for inspiration. I use it a lot. I love it, because there's sometimes you're just like, I'm really stuck. I feel like I only have these preset colors in Microsoft Paint and I don't know what to do. So it's a really great way to just grab inspiration and see, play with different ways to put colors together. If you're doing a nature blog, you might want to stay with more natural elements, and like you can do search terms and search natural and see what other people did. Or if you're doing a food blog, you want to do bright, colorful things that are making people hungry. So play around with that. It's really fun. Design blogs that I recommend following, there's a whole bunch here. I love all of these, and some of them get a little more designy and webby, and some are a little bit more forward-facing, but that first one, the OWL Awards, WWW, so that one is great. Like whenever I'm stuck and need inspiration for something, I always find myself coming back to that website because it's just the best of the best. They do this award thing every day, they have monthly, they have a big award show once a year, and so they're really trying to filter to the best of the internet. So stuff that you search on there is really cream of the crop. And I'm a big proponent of keeping on learning. One of my favorites right now is Skillshare. I love going on there and doing tutorials, but any one of these are really great. They have all these different video courses, and I'm the kind of person I need to do it and see it to understand it. Someone can't just tell me. So if you're that kind of person too, these are all really great. Lynda.com has a lot of like Adobe tutorials if you're interested in learning any of that. Code Academy if you want to brush up on actually learning more code for the back end of your website. Udemy has a lot of different stuff, kind of like Skillshare, and then WordPress Beginner is really nice for just understanding more if you're on a WordPress platform, understanding more about that. And that's it. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. Okay, I am going to be responsible for these annoying commercials. I'm sorry, so I have to tell you all this stuff before you break. So we just heard our first speaker, which was great to get things started, but I wanted to remind you about at the end of the day there is an after party, in case you weren't aware. It's at the River Grill. in Plains, and it's at 5 p.m. It's co-hosted with NEPA Blogs. You might remember them from NEPA Blog Fest, which is actually where the idea for the BlogCon started. And What Now app, who won this year's Tech Bridge Business Plan competition. They're here. Make sure you speak to them today. You'll get to network later. They're part of the expo upstairs, and stop by, say hello to them. We'll be having lunch up there, and you can network during that time as well. Follow them at NEPA Blogs and What Now Social. Those are the two different places you can follow them. Sponsors are a really big reason why we get to have this NEPA BlogCon, and the Squirrel Girls Tech Camp, which is awesome, promoting young women learning great things. And that's why we're able to do these things. So we want to take a moment to recognize our 2017 sponsors who helped us make today possible. First up, we want to acknowledge NetDriven. It's based in downtown Scranton. NetDriven provides website and digital marketing solutions for the automotive industry. Be sure to check them out, netdriven.com, and they will always have new career and internship opportunities available. Follow them on Twitter at GetNetDriven. We'd also like to thank NEPA Geeks, providing NEPA BlogCon with website hosting. They are our tech support lifeline, thank God. Be sure to check them out at nepageeks.com. Follow them on Twitter, NEPA Geeks. And finally, a huge shout out to our friends at Park Multimedia. Dan and the team at Park have been wonderful. They've been longtime collaborators with NEPA BlogCon. They provide promos, video testimonials. Without them, we couldn't make this possible. They also do live streaming, events coverage, and a lot more. Be sure to check them out at parkmultimedia.com. Follow them on Twitter. You guessed it, Park Multimedia. Also, be sure to visit them upstairs at the expo. They're giving away a free NAR box. That's exciting if you know what it is. I don't. I am a word nerd and apparently not a tech nerd enough to know what a NAR box is. So maybe you should go find out. I'm going to go find out what that's about. And Dan from Park is giving a roundtable this afternoon on vlogging, so stay tuned for that. Also, I want to give myself a plug. I'm upstairs with 2 of my books. He's Not Prince Charming When, because I've had a lot of bad dates and I'm still single. And Warts and All, my children's book. So I'll be up there during lunchtime as well. Now, please feel free to do what you need to do. Just take a short 10-minute break. Come back and we'll have Kenny Luck as our second speaker. So take a short break, okay? And then come on back.